So my depression started in about 2005. I was going through a divorce, and that's when I noticed I was having a lot of issues with depression. I never went and got checked, or I never went and got on antidepressants or saw a counselor. I just kind of figured, well, I'm strong enough, I can handle this, I'll get through it, it's just a bad day, I can handle this. So that was in 2005. Along with genetic hereditary of the bipolar disorder, a lot of it is environmental also. So if you already have that in your hereditary, it kind of lays dormant, and then you would have like a certain episode, whether it's something traumatic, abuse, that really manifests the symptoms in full effect of the bipolar. So the depression for me started in 2005, but when I actually started having the major symptoms of bipolar was in 2008. 2008, I had a lot going on that year. My father was very sick. I was going through a horrible custody battle, and I was in a relationship living with a man whom, with all those stresses, ended up breaking up and moving in with my mom. So I'm living back with mom, and I'm going through a nasty custody battle, and I'm trying to work and take care of my kids, and my dad is very sick. So I'm going up to the hospital often to go visit him and to be there for him. Ultimately, through that year, I had a breakdown. I had tried to be strong for so long in 2008. By the end of the year, I had a breakdown, basically. My father's illness got worse, and he ultimately passed away. And I just didn't want to do anything anymore. I signed off on my custody battle, and I just let things be whatever it was going to be. I couldn't do anything anymore. With that being said, that's definitely was a very traumatic year for me, and that's when my symptoms manifested. I started having a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but mostly I was in hypomania, which is you're not manic, you're not having delusions or hallucinations, but everything is on the high side for you. So I had constant energy, I had high sex drive, I had less sleep, less desire for sleep, to eat, to rest. I constantly wanted to be on the go. I constantly wanted to be doing like risky activities or behaviors. I was always on the upside of things. And my family, my loved ones closest to me, they definitely noticed the change. But me, myself, I honestly did not notice the change at all. I just thought, well, this is how I am. This is the way it's going to be. So I went like this for quite a few years, having those type of behaviors. I stopped being very close to my family because I was mostly agitated and irritated a lot of the time, and I just didn't have the patience to hear anything that they were trying to say to me or in ways they were trying to help me. I didn't want anything to do with it. I'm fine. I don't need any help. Eventually, it was destroying relationships. It was destroying relationships with my sons. I have 2 boys, and it was destroying relationships with friends and with my family members. I started dating a man, and he had watched my behaviors and how I was acting and being and the things I was saying and just the way I was acting, and it asked me, have you ever thought to get checked for bipolar disorder? Well, naturally, I know my grandmother had it, my great-grandmother had it, but there's no way I have it. No, I don't have bipolar disorder. There's no, I was in big denial. There's no way I could have bipolar disorder. So I did ultimately go to the doctor, and I got checked for it. With bipolar disorder, there's no certain blood test, CAT scan, MRI. There's nothing, that they can take to ultrasound to say, oh, yep, this is what you have, we found it. It's more on questions, your actions, your behaviors. So I went to the doctor, told them what my symptoms were, how I was acting, how I was behaving on a daily basis, basically. And he gave me a 12-page or a questionnaire that had 12 questions on the page. And he says, I'm going to have you read over these and answer the questions, and I'm going to leave the room. And he did, and I answered every one of them yes, except for one question. And he came back in the room, and he looked at the paper, and he says, we need to start you on a mood stabilizer right today, like right now. So I got started on a mood stabilizer. I take Lamictal, and I've been on that mood stabilizer since that day. A few years later, I started having bad depression. I was going into bipolar major depression, and was really isolating myself again from loved ones, from friends, from my kids, from basically everybody. I was spending a lot of time alone at my apartment, just being alone and not being healthy at all. So I went back to my doctor. I got on an antidepressant. I also was having sleep troubles, and so he put me on trazodone, which helps me sleep, and the antidepressant I take is Lexapro. I do have an anti-anxiety medication, clonidine, that I just take PRN as needed. A major side effect of bipolar disorder is suicide and suicidal ideations. I had quit taking my antidepressant, and I feel like a lot of people that have mental illnesses do this. You're on medication, you're feeling stable, you're feeling good, and you're thinking, I don't really need this medicine anymore. Like, I'm doing great, look at me. And you stop taking your medicine. And typically that's not the best thing to do. I mean, I think we all know we need to stay on a medication for a reason. So I stopped taking my antidepressant last year, and I started having a lot of suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation. Suicidal ideation is when you're having a lot of thoughts of suicide or a preoccupation thoughts of it. It's not necessarily that you're thinking about doing it or wanting to do it, but the thoughts are just there. That's probably out of all the times I've had bipolar when I've been this scaredest of my own mind. I was having a lot of suicidal ideation. I knew inside that that's not what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to kill myself. I did not want to die, but the thoughts would just be there. It's not like you're sitting down watching TV and you're like, oh, how could I do this? No, it's like I would be driving down the road, stopped at a red light, and bam, those thoughts are in my mind of ways to kill myself or that I want to die. Even though inside of myself I know I don't want to do this, those thoughts were there. That was the scariest I've ever been in regards to the bipolar disorder. Ultimately, they got worse and worse, and at the beginning of this year, I admitted myself to a behavioral health unit because of the suicidal ideation. I was very depressed. I was having the suicidal thoughts, and I knew if I was not going to be admitted that day that my family would be writing an obituary that day. That I knew that for a fact. I was bawling. I was scared. I called the crisis line, and they suggested I definitely go up to the emergency department right then, or if I would like them to call me an ambulance to come to my house and get me. I called my sister, and she came and got me and took me right up to the emergency department, and then from there I was admitted to the behavioral health floor. I feel like that had a lot to do with my recovery, and to where now I'm staying on my medication, I'm having better behaviors. After I got discharged from the hospital, I started going to NAMI, which is National Alliance of Mental Illness. I started going to their peer support classes and every week, and then I also ended up going and getting certified as a certified peer support specialist. Certified peer support specialist is a person that supports their peers or is an advocate for their peers. So when having bipolar disorder, if you have a manic episode or any kind of crisis, it helps to have somebody that really knows what you're going through. Obviously, you're going to have the doctor there that wants to prescribe you this medication, or they know things because of their schooling or books that they've read. You're going to have the psychiatrist because of their schooling or books they've read. A nurse giving you your medications because this is what you're supposed to take. But whom really do you have in your corner that knows exactly what your mind is going through and knows exactly how you're feeling and what's happening inside of you, but somebody that's been there, somebody that also has the bipolar disorder. And that actually has helped me a lot in my own recovery, knowing that I can help somebody else that is struggling with things I have struggled with. That's been huge for me, for my recovery, to just be there for somebody else.